rules of council thrown one side in a desperate grab at power by a corrupt cabal whose only goal is to control and corrupt the city's 77.6 billion rand budget. As previously stated, as the Democratic Alliance, we are of the position that the Programming Committee of Thursday, the 29th of September 2022, and the subsequent extraordinary meeting of council of Friday, the 30th of September 2022, and the decisions taken thereof were unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. We are so confident in our assessment that I, on behalf of the party and the 6 million residents of Johannesburg, filed papers in the High Court arguing this point. In this regard, the High Court is set to hear our case on the 18th of October 2022. Members of the media, I want to again reiterate that this is not about the positions we hold or once held. This is about the rule of law. Whether we go back into government is one issue, but our removal from government and the preceding events were illegal. And therefore, as legislators who swore to obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution and all other laws of the Republic of South Africa, it would be wrong of us to simply let this go on that basis alone. I will go through the arguments of our court papers, while my colleagues will outline what they found in their portfolios when they took office, and the work that has been done to begin the repair and rebuild of Johannesburg, illustrating what is at stake if we do not challenge last week's events and allow the now ANC Joburg government to sit illegally. As submitted to the High Court, our prayers are declaring that the decision of the Speaker taken on the 29th of September 2022 to schedule an extraordinary meeting of Council for 30 September 2022 was unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. Declaring that the decision of the Programming Committee of Council taken on the 29th of September 2022 to place a motion of no confidence in the Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg on the agenda for the extraordinary council meeting on 30 September 2022 was unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. Declaring that the decision of council taken on 30 September 2022 to adopt a motion of no confidence in the Executive Mayor was unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. Declaring the decision of council to elect an Executive Mayor on 30 September 2022 as unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. Declaring that I, along with the executive of the city, maintain office. Declaring that all decisions taken by the current Executive Mayor are unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid and are reviewed and set aside. We're also seeking a cost order on Councillor Colleen Makubele. This is a fight for Joburg, the rule of law, residents, and service delivery. Service delivery will collapse under the illegally installed government as the taps of corruption that were closed will now be reopened until there is nothing left. I also just want to mention that we've just heard that this current illegal administration has called for all board decisions or all board actions to be put on hold, and they've gone and advertised for new board members for the entities in the city of Johannesburg. And we believe that this is done to facilitate their corrupt agenda. I also just want to address the matter of the Field Band Foundation saga as mentioned by the African National Congress in their press, I believe, of the 27th of September. I want to start by saying that this is not a new matter. It's a very old matter. It happened when I was serving as MMC for Health and Social Development. The matter was brought to council, therefore there was no need to bring it to council again. The matter was the subject of a Hawks Commercial Crimes Unit investigation in which I fully participated, sat in interviews with the Hawks 3 times, lengthy interviews, one in my office, one in their office in Johannesburg, another one in their office in Tshwane, and I have not heard back from the Hawks since. I participated in this matter as a witness, not as the accused, and I am aware there was a subsequent public protector report wherein I was not even mentioned, and I'm also aware that the matter is currently sub judice as Mr. Herman Mashaba, the former mayor, took the public protector to court to challenge her report. I will not be saying more on this, but I just thought to shed some clarity on this allegation that I was corrupt. We were in government for less than a year. and the city was starting to gradually look and feel better. Our work thus far has been outlined in detail in the multi-party government's Golden Report. The events leading up to the 30th of September's illegal removal of the multi-party government were a political hit, not just on the law, but also on the work we were doing to stop corruption and advance a pragmatic service delivery program that was already showing results. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not interested in pointing fingers at this person or that party. What needs to be done now is for the law to take its course and for us to reorganize and regroup for the sake of Johannesburg and its 6 million residents. I now hand over to the MMCs, who will detail what they had to contend with in the various portfolios that they held and the progress made in repairing and rebuilding the city. Councillor Julie Sadabi, the MMC for Finance, Councillor Leonot, the MMC for Group Corporate and Shared Services, Councillor Belinda Echuzun-Joku, the MMC for Development Planning, and Councillor Michael Sun, the MMC for Environment and Infrastructure Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Julie Sadabi, do you need to move the microphone?
Members of the media and residents of Johannesburg. On the 28th of September 2022, the media reported that the ANC Regional Secretary, Mr. Sasabona Manganye, as stating that the city of Johannesburg underspent by 2.3 billion rand at the end of May 2021. The media must have got it wrong, because the ANC 27 September statement states that the underspend on the capital expenditure was a whopping 5.1 billion rand. However, the as yet unaudited figures show that the multi-party government achieved 88% spend on capex as at the end of the year, which was 900 million rand under budgeted amount. The underspend notwithstanding, the overall performance shows an increase of 6% on the previous year's capex spend. Moreover, the ANC 27 September statement states that the city was driven to bankruptcy in 11 months. It must be noted that in the last 6 months of the ANC's previous administration, the city's cash bank balance declined from 6.6 billion rand in July 2021 to 3.9 billion rand at the end of December 2021. This means that the city hemorrhaged 2.7 billion rand in just 6 months. That's a whopping 450 million rand a month loss every month for 6 months, from July to December 2021. This multi-party government was formed on the 14th of December 2021, and not a moment too soon, I can assure you. And I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that money will now again disappear at an astonishing rate under this new ANC arrangement in the city. The closing bank balance on the 30th of June 2022 was 3.8 billion rand. And it does sadden me that this multi-party government did lose 100 million rand, which equates to 16.7 million rand a month over those last 6 months of the last financial year. So after 336 months, that's 28 years, of mostly ANC maladministration, it will take more than 9 months to find and fix all the shortfalls, which we were doing, which is why our 77.3 billion rand budget that came into effect on the 1st of July 2022 was called a golden repair budget. We reduced the number of employees able to credit customer accounts from 500 to a select 24 managers. And all the data that can be changed on a customer account that will change the billing must now be supported by relevant documentation. Our walk-in centres are more responsive than they have ever been. The internet linkages to those centres are now being monitored and repaired and improved where possible and required. We introduced phase 3 of the debt rehabilitation program, and we improved the access to this program by increasing the property value threshold and allowed, for example, deceased estates and old age homes to access those benefits. Under the multi-party government, Eskom has never been short or late paid, and we pay Eskom within 15 days of receiving their invoice, and we have never defaulted. The amount in the winter months is about between 2.2 and 2.4 billion rand, and in summer it drops down to around 1.6 billion rand. And the same applies to Rand Water. No invoice has been late or not paid. That amounts to more or less 600 million rand per month. The city purchases water and electricity in bulk, and we pay for it even before our customers are billed for their usage. This means, barring false and rolling blackouts, there has always been power and water for our residents. There has been no day zero with respect to cash in the bank, and with the 2 billion rand short-term loan secured by the Development Bank of South Africa, there won't be one. This loan will be coming to the October Council sitting for approval. The Finance Section 79 Committee must keep a sharp eye on the city's finances to ensure that this loan is not squandered, but that it is utilized for the right purpose to deliver services to the 6 million residents of Johannesburg. The supply chain policy was being looked at. National Treasury was coming in October, and it was very likely that the new policy that would allow oversight would have been approved in Council before December. There is now no guarantee that this will happen for as long as the ANC is in that office. It is nothing short of a travesty that this coup took place now, but in the eyes of the ANC and their corrupt cabal, we were too close to closing too many taps. If we had been left to complete this calendar year, never mind the political term, access to billions would have been terminated. The first financial event, overseen by Councillor Arnolds, contravenes National Treasury's cost containment regulations on no less than 3 counts. The venue for the sleep-out is closer than 500 kilometers away. The venue is graded higher than 3 stars, and the venue is not within the environs of Johannesburg. I can only encourage and reassure our residents that we in the DA and I myself will not give up. I will continue to fight for what is right and conduct the oversight that is necessary to ensure the residents receive the services that they pay for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, NMC Sudley. NMC Sun.
Sorry, don't mind if I move your microphone. Thank you very much. Is that good? Good morning. Thank you very much, Executive Mayor, Dr. Mpho Phalatse, colleagues. I wrote a script, and I have never done well from reading a script, because that's not why we joined politics. We joined politics because we want to serve from the bottom of our hearts. but please bear with me as I read some of the figures from the script, because I tend to forget numbers sometimes. We inherited a city that is full of filth, broken pipes, no electricity at days on end, and you would have noticed the latest development of no water, where everyone else is calling it a crisis. Councillor Dada Moreto thinks it's something that should happen every single day. And I'll come to his vision for a JoJo tank for every household a little bit later. We are looking at a backlog in the city, across the city, of 300 billion rand. The city is indeed broken in many, many aspects, not just in terms of the Environment and Infrastructure Services Department, but if you look at some of the other issues that we had to attend to across the board as a multi-party government jointly, you begin to realize that the city needs a good golden repair, and that's what we've started. Since we took office, we identified the failures in service delivery, and we've procured resources, we put budget to it, and indeed we've put action to where our mouths are. I want to start with Joburg Water, because that is the hot topic of the day. During my office as the MMC for EISD, I came across pipes that's over 100 years old. Now, in areas such as Fourways, where you still have asbestos pipes that burst every second day, and the residents say, well, can't you get this fixed? The reason is that they were neglected for so long, years, not months, years and years of lack of infrastructure investment that sees these infrastructure crumbling, failing, and the residents eventually don't have water, don't have electricity. But what we've done, and now to share this with you, is that we've started, in fact, in this current financial year, with the pipe replacement program. There's over 12,000 kilometers of water pipes in the city of Johannesburg, just under 12,000 kilometers of sewer pipes in the city. And those needs to be replaced, and we've begun on that. Instead of thinking a JoJo tank for every household, that will cost 3.36 billion rand for the residents in the city, we said we're going to put the monies into maintaining, upgrading and building new towers, new reservoirs in the city. In fact, there's a whole list of programs that we initiated. I'm very happy to share that with you. The list is very long, so please allow me not to waste your time here, but I'll certainly share that with you of the interview. Now let me go to City Power. Our Executive Mayor Mpho Phalatse led us into the first ever Energy Ndaba in the city of Johannesburg. And coming out of that, we were able to draw from the best minds and expertise and experience in the sector, so we could then move forward with our alternative mixed source energy program. In fact, we have already compiled a strategic framework, and we're days away from unveiling our first IPP project, which the mayor and I were very excited about, because we're then able to move our residents and customers away from load shedding. For example, once our IPP program starts, when Eskom should announce a stage 4 load shedding, we're then able to move our residents and customers down to a stage 2. So these are the kind of work that we've really put into action. Let me go to some of the other, not power related, but certainly assist us in providing an uninterrupted power supply to the residents. When I took office, I had a chat with our executive mayor. I said, we need to fight cable theft. And that's where we made a promise to our residents that by the end of this financial year, we will reduce cable theft by 20%. That's a huge task, but the residents heard our call, the CPFs, the community patrollers, law enforcement. I want to give you these figures. 41 suspects were arrested in July compared to the 24th of July in 2021. That's a 71% increase. A total of 82 years imprisonment were ordered by the courts on the 9 suspects that were convicted for cable theft related crimes. And every single day we go out there. I've personally conducted infrastructure protection night patrols with the residents to learn firsthand what kind of attack we are under by cable thieves and vandals. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to then move to pick it up. And again, we're days away from unveiling the 41 compacted trucks that we've procured to fight illegal dumping in the city of Johannesburg. We've deployed mechanical sweepers on 2 shifts from 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. to sweep the streets clean in the city. My job is really simple as the MMC for EISD. My job was to ensure that I keep the lights on, we keep clean water running in our taps, our environment, our streets are clean, and of course we have a healthy environment for our future generation. But this is now put into a halt. As you've heard, our mayor said that there was an illegal process to remove the current administration. And we don't know what's going to happen with this project. I certainly want them to continue because they are not for politics, but they are for the residents of Johannesburg. In fact, it's a multi-year project that we've put our minds to it. We've applied to understand what is the best for our residents. And I can only imagine that the capital budget of 1.2 billion rand and 1.6 billion rand in operational expenditure to repair and rebuild the city would now go somewhere. And I go back to this Jojo Tank story by the new so-called executive mayor, Dada Morero, that he wants to put in a Jojo Tank to the 1.68 million homes in the city of Johannesburg. Never mind the cost of 3.36 billion rand. Where are you going to get water to fill those Jojo tanks? So as a politician, I think you need to get down to the ground, be realistic, and go fix what's broken and ensure those budgets and those resources and human capital get to work instead of making empty promises and promises that in fact makes Johannesburg such a wonderful, beautiful city a laughing stock. In end, I want to also mention that in the same statement that our mayor mentioned earlier on, there were also accusations made against me. These are not only wrong, but false. I think they were aimed to assassinate me in my personal character. It is very unfortunate that the political party such as the ANC had nothing true to say about the good work that we've done. But I think certainly that our residents have seen it. I have been receiving words of comfort from our residents on social media posts, and I think this is a testament of what our residents have seen, the difference that our DA-led multi-party government can bring to the residents of City of Johannesburg. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MMC Sun. We'll now have MMC Nos.
Thank you so much, Executive Mayor, my colleagues that are seated here today, our fellow councillors, members of the media, and especially our residents of Johannesburg, which is why we are here today. I think as the MMC4 Group Corporates and Shared Services, I oversee what can be described as the engine room for the City of Johannesburg. Being such a large department with a lot of responsibilities, we had to identify the problems and act on them very quickly, because a broken department of corporate and shared services means our city performs very poorly. But we did make headway in a number of spaces in the very short period that we were in office, and we are still in office, as the Executive Mayor has advised. Tens of millions of rands was owed to hospitals and doctors for almost a decade when we came in. This is for the treatment of City Johannesburg employees who were injured on the job. This mostly consisted of your police officers, your EMS, your essential services employees. And when we came into government, it was to a final ultimatum from hospitals that their doors would be closed to city employees until the issues were resolved. And this was on the eve of 2 of our officers being shot. We had to act quickly, and we had to do it not only in the interests of our officials, but also for the residents that they serve. We managed to settle all the debt, and if I have to tell you, these hospitals were owed, each of them, tens of millions of rands over almost 10 years. And we settled all of this debt between March and June of this financial year. We are now in very good negotiations or discussions with hospitals. We speak to them on a monthly basis, and we have a very good relationship with them. A critical function of Group Corporate is also human resources. In order to repair and rebuild the city, we needed to ensure that critical vacancies were filled by capable women and men. For example, there was a vacancy in the city manager position for over a year. I think it was since February 2021. And there were vacancies in 5 heads of departments, some spanning 2 or more years, resulting in the city and its departments having no full-time, consistent leadership. Some notable appointments and progress that was made during this time: the ED of Development Planning was appointed in July 2022. The group head for GSPCR, which is our Strategy and Coordination Department, was appointed in August 2022. The ED for Group Corporate and Shared Services, we had completed the interviews and the vetting had been done, as well as their competency assessments. That was basically just awaiting council approval. The ED for Economic Development, the shortlisting had been completed. We were awaiting interviews. The Group Head of Governance, the interviews had been done. We were awaiting the vetting and competency assessments. The City Manager, interviews were done. We were awaiting the vetting and competency assessments. The Group CFO, who had resigned, this job was advertised. We actually had to do a new job description for this role, as there wasn't one on record in the city. The Group Head of Group Communications was advertised. The ED of Health was advertised. This job description also had to be re-evaluated, as the city position has actually changed over time. It now includes environmental health and social development. The Chief of Police interviews had been done. This was actually quite a successful process. We were happy with the people that we'd interviewed. We had some strong men and women in this particular panel, and we were awaiting the vetting and competency. This is not a Section 56 position, but you can understand it's highly critical. So it was overseen by the City Manager as well as myself as the Head of Group Corporate and Shared Services. We were also critical in managing the matter of the political employees, and this is one that's been in the media quite often. These were made permanent at an additional cost to the city of 86 million rand. These employees were placed in an excess pool. They sat at home while they were earning money. It was also done in contradiction to a directive from COJ, stating that political appointments were fixed to the term of their political principal. So as you understand, when a political principal goes out of office, the political appointments go with them, and the new government is then able to appoint their political appointments. We reversed this decision. We corrected the talent acquisition policy in line with COJ's directive, and this matter was actually taken to the Labour Court 7 times. We were successful in those cases, as well as to the Bargaining Council once, in an attempt to restore the status quo. However, all of those attempts were unsuccessful. And I think we need to understand where this comes from when you have the newly illegally appointed MMC of Finance, who had her son as a ghost employee in her office, and why they were fighting for this matter so hard. It had nothing to do with service delivery employees. It had everything to do with cadre deployment. Included within that were the 6 political appointments at over 100,000 rand a month that were converted in October. And these were people who held membership in the ANC branches throughout province and regional, and it was done in contradiction to the directive from COJ, which stated that you cannot hold membership in a party as well as be appointed within the city. And these officials were earning over 100,000 rand a month. What was astonishing was that the city's critical service delivery departments and entities were not operating at 100% capacity, despite the lockdown restrictions having been lifted, which was resulting in a severely reduced service delivery. JRA, as an example, when we came in, was operating at 10% of its total capacity, and this ultimately led down to the breakdown that you saw in our roads, including pothole repairs over the COVID period. We therefore implemented from the 1st of April 2022 100% back to work, with no hybrid working options available for essential service departments. We did draft and approve a hybrid working policy for those employees who are able to work remotely, and this policy allowed for the capacitation of staff outside the workplace so that they had tools of trade in order to work remotely. When we say that the ANC is corrupt, we are not politicking, we are stating facts. For example, poor and corrupt contract management was costing the city billions. All city core contracts had expired when we came into office, and the ANC had failed to start the renewal process on any of them, some of them dating as far back as early 2020. This included contracts such as the photocopier machines, which are basically enable all of our revenue centres and our civic centres that serve our public in order to operate, as well as building control and a lot of other departments. The cell phone contracts for all of our employees, the fleets for all entities and departments, for example, our fire engines, and the travel desk that enables our city to function efficiently. In fact, the ANC had redirected 200 million rand intended for fire engines in 2020 to the political staff remuneration costs, as they had increased the structure, which is why we had to budget for these fire engines in the current financial year. Critical service employees such as building inspectors, environmental health officers, public safety officers, emergency services and the like, who need to travel in order to do their jobs, were being paid locomotion allowances based on AA rates from 1999. This meant these officials were only getting out on the ground once a week or once every 2 weeks, if you were lucky, which explained the slow resolution of service delivery complaints and the mushrooming of illegal activity in our wards. Despite the ANC government promising updated allowances, they never provided the budget. And basically what they've done is lied to the unions and the city employees about having prioritised this for the adjustment budget in January, February of this year. While Councillor Masuka at the time had passed off a signed MACOM report of proof of the locomotion allowance being implemented, it was never going to materialise, as Finance had never approved the budget and Council had never heard about it. It was thus never in the pipeline. In essence, they prioritised increasing politician support staff and converting them to permanent above equipping our service delivery staff for service delivery within the city. In the current budget, we have allocated 69 million rand, and as you know, we were able to change or implement our own budget from the 1st of July, and we allocated 69 million rand to adjust local allowances for staff. This is being done in 2 phases, with critical staff in phase 1 during the current financial year, and the balance in phase 2, either during the adjustment budget early 2023 or in the new financial year starting 1st of July next year. We also very recently identified loan shark issues within our city. 4,000 employees had actually been the victim of loans that essentially incapacitated them, in their daily lives. Some of them were taking 75% to 100% cuts on their salaries in order to pay back loans that were unsecured. No credit feasibility had been done. We stopped this along with the acting city manager at the time in September, and we capped these at 25% as per law. This was costing 16 million rand per month that was going off employee salaries within the city. As you know, employees who are financially stressed, and over 2,000 of them had approached our EAP unit, are unable to commit to their jobs. They need to be able to work in a place where they are emotionally stable. Anti-corruption measures like lifestyle audits were also not in place, and in August 2022, we committed to developing an implementation plan for lifestyle audits as part of our commitment to fighting corruption. This would see lifestyle audits of not only senior officials, but also councillors being undertaken in the current financial year. I can assure you that under the ANC, this is definitely not going to happen, as it didn't happen in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MMC Mark. We now conclude the list of speakers with MMC H's of York.
Executive Mayor, members of the media, most importantly the residents of the City of Johannesburg. The Department of Development Planning is critical to the city. When we talk about rebuilding our city, this department is meant to do it in the truest form. The department is charged with, among other things, building bylaw enforcement, land use management, planning control, and the development planning was also tasked with being champion of coordinating departments within the Inner City Rejuvenation Project. While it is not the job of government to create jobs, it is done through the Joburg Development Agency, which eventually creates jobs through some of the projects that is done for other client departments. For example, the 5th Road Bridge project, which we completed in record time, created 31 jobs and empowered 6 SMMEs. There are a number of such projects across the city, and its co-conspirators are only happy to get their hands on whatever can be done to stop some of this work that is being done through the Joburg Development Agency. There were 15 board members when we took over the city as the multi-party government. And these board members were mostly ineffective with some of the issues that we have encountered when we walked in. We appointed a new board of only 9 members. Poor performing contractors were terminated after being put on terms and not being able to deliver to our residents. Members of the media, the Bramfishable Gravel Road, which was highly publicized, which the JDA was overseeing, had not been completed, yet 2 contractors were paid and none of them completed the job. I went on an oversight inspection and there was nothing to show for it. 94 million rand was spent, with residents suffering under the watch of the previous administration, the ANC. The new contractor was appointed and to complete the job. Another example was the Diepsloot public environment upgrade, which cost the city about 15 million rand under the ANC's watch. Give me a minute. I'm looking at the numbers, which is always a numbers person, like MMC San says. I need to look, scripts doesn't do well with me. Under the ANC's watch, 15 million rand was spent, and to our surprise, we found out that the same contractor that was also doing the Selby upgrade was the same contractor that did the public environment upgrade in Diepsloot, and it was not completed. They were put on terms, there was no road to show for it, there was no informal trader stalls to show for it, and of course, we've unfortunately had to terminate their contracts and get due diligence done to get a new a contractor appointed. We also found that under the watch of the JDA board, payments made to contractors were made outside of the city's system. Now, how do you get accountability if payments are made and you cannot track or control how these payments are done? We have instituted investigation, but rest assured, under this cabal of the ANC, these investigations are going to go nowhere. Colleagues, residents of Joburg and the media, we have also made strides in bettering the department. We developed and implemented the department's online construction permit management system, which we call the CPMS, which had been finalized after nothing had been done for 2 years in the previous administration. In a few weeks, in a single week, the department processed over 1,600 building plans that has been processed, with 103 of them being RDP houses that had also been approved. It's unfortunate that already payments were made by the department to MTC last week and never reached the service provider. No one can account as to why the service provider had not been paid, yet there's a proof of payment from development planning and invoices to prove that things have been processed, but it's not been paid. Obviously, with this service provider not being able to provide support, the progress on the online system will now be stalled. We initiated the digital archiving, which had not been touched for years by the ANC. Despite the Section 79 putting the department on notice due to the lives of staff members being put at risk with the working conditions in the archiving in the basement, we did an oversight with Councillor Knott in April with OHASA and the previous city manager, and we started the process of appointing a service provider for digital archiving. We have improved service to developers and the city property owners by initiating recruitment for key technical vacancies and land use management and building development managed within our department. In some cases, we extended the contracts of key experienced officials that were nearing retirement in order for proper transfer of skills. In my role as the MMC responsible for the inner city, we took hold of the CBD zoning compliance and planning enforcement through integrated block-by-block operation in urban decay hotspots. We reviewed and updated the department's outdoor advertising bylaw and policy, and it's currently up for public comment. We also initiated the Digital Twin Project, and which will assist in how we see and view the city in the next 3 to 5 years. We also started mapping all township applications to see exactly where they are and track these in relation to what the Spatial Development Framework says and where we're going in the next 3 to 5 years. That will assist us to know where there's infrastructure shortcomings and where departments like City Power, Joburg Water need to upgrade the pipes and issues like that. Mapping the ECDs per region, Early Childhood Development Centers per region, had also started in order to assist in regularizing them and reviewing the tariffs for ECDs in township to assist them to comply with the national building regulations. As we know, we come from an era where apartheid in the townships There's a lot of building that has happened without people even knowing they have to comply and they have to submit. They have built creches in their backyards and they don't know that they actually need to comply with the national building regulations. We've started a process of assisting these families and these small businesses that parents in the township rely on in order to make it easier for them to comply. The Municipal Planning Tribunal had an 18-month backlog of objections and appeals, and we were making significant progress in clearing this backlog. We also requested for new external experts to be selected onto the tribunal to ensure the highest expertise is overseeing land use and building objections and appeals. One of my proudest moments as the MMC of Development Planning was when Council adopted the Urban Development Framework for the area known as Frankenwald. This Frankenwald development will be characterized by high-density mixed-use developments with an estimated residential yield of about 30,000 residential units. The project will further ensure the creation of job opportunities not only for during the 10 to 15-year construction lifespan of the project, but well after completion. There will also be opportunities for local, small, medium, and micro enterprises to be empowered once construction commences. This development presents an opportunity for the city to tackle apartheid spatial planning and give effect to the mayoral priority of building an inclusive city by providing affordable housing opportunities on well-located land in the city to those that live far from social and employment opportunities. In my role of the MMC responsible for development planning, we also initiated the precinct-based approach to development in order to be business-friendly and foster better collaboration with the private sector. This will make a huge difference in becoming a business-friendly city, relaxing zoning around these areas that are demarcated as a precinct, and also creating opportunities in these areas. Indeed, the repair and rebuild of Johannesburg was fully underway. Developers, the construction industry were beginning to see Joburg as a place to invest in. But alas, with this new cabal, we see all this reversed, and already they've started with a lot of issues that will reverse all of these. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, MMC Chazanjoku. Friends, colleagues of the media, it's now your time to pose whatever questions you may have. We do have, besides the mayor and the 4 MMCs, other colleagues here, the Vasco da Gama and Bongani Formo and Tyrell Myers. You may pose your questions to any of the people at the table. The floor is yours. I would only ask that when you introduce yourself, that you give us your name and who you represent. Bali first and then Puri. Bali?
I'm from Africa. I want to find out what is the status of the coalition in the city of Johannesburg. One would say that the only reason why you find yourself in this situation is because you couldn't find yourself with the Patriotic Alliance and some of the other smaller parties. Have you reached out to them to try and maybe settle this matter now? Because even though the courts might find in your favor, once you're back again in the city of Johannesburg, you essentially be back to square one, and it seems that the other side has more of the numbers. Is this in the interest of Joburg residents? Because we've been seeing a lot of political squabbles, especially playing itself out on social media. I know that the ANC has said that they've given you 48 hours to respond, otherwise they will be suing you for saying that you are claiming that they are corrupt. Is this in the interest of Joburg residents? Because many are asking that it seems that these are just two parties just playing politics with each other. My last question is, has your coalition fallen apart, or is the coalition still intact? Just last week we saw Action SA saying that they are reviewing their status with all their coalition partners. Where do you stand with Action SA? Thank you.
Do you want to take all of those now, or do you want to take Puri?
Either way.
Taking-
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll take them. Thank you, Mbali. In as far as the status of the coalition is concerned, I think I've tried to explain it a number of times that the coalition is structured in such a manner that we've got structures at a national level, we've got structures at a local level. And talks have already begun, even at a national level. We are reaching out to each other, we are engaging, we're having conversations about rebuilding and repairing. So that's where we are. And as far as what the coalition looks like at the moment, it's still early days. We are still in talks. As you know, the Patriotic Alliance has left the coalition. We've seen in the announcement of the illegitimate mayoral committee yesterday that there are 2 portfolios that have been given to the Patriotic Alliance. That for me was very interesting because we've been led to believe that the coalition in Johannesburg collapsed because of the choice of speaker candidate. But what's beginning to surface is that there's actually a bigger plot here. And, when I saw an IFP member of parliament stating that it was actually the Patriotic Alliance's idea for the IFP to demand the position of speaker, and looking at how even when other parties were willing, or all the parties even, were willing to put forward a proposal to national leadership to have an alternative speaker tabled in that council sitting, how the Patriotic Alliance said we will not even support an IFP speaker. That to me says that they had no intention of supporting any speaker, regardless of which political party they came from. The Patriotic Alliance had struck a deal with the African National Congress. It's quite clear now. I think things are beginning to be exposed, and as time goes, we'll begin to see more and more of what actually transpired and why we find ourselves in this position. So I can say at this point that the Patriotic Alliance has switched sides. However, talks are continuing with our partners to see how we salvage the situation for the sake of our residents and save them from this corruption and looting that we see is loading as we speak. In terms of me calling the NC corrupt and them demanding that I apologize, you ask, is it in the interest of Joburg residents? It's in the interest of Joburg.
I'm saying, these political squabbles and trying to get back into the city of Johannesburg, is this in the interest of Joburg residents? Because it seems as if these are just 2 parties basically attacking each other just for the sake of it.
It's definitely in the interest of Joburg residents. We arranged this presser today primarily to share with residents what we've uncovered in the city in the time that we've been in office. And it's clear from all the reports from the various MCs that are here today that the ANC has no interest in servicing our residents. Their only interest is in serving their own selfish interest, which is looting the coffers of the city. Therefore, yes, it is in the interest of our residents for them to be informed as to what goes on in the city because they're not aware. For them to also understand why the city looks the way it looks because they don't know where things fell apart. So yes, it is important. And it's also important for us to go to court and fight for the courts to declare that unlawful sitting as unlawful, unconstitutional, and illegal, and to set aside all its decisions, because we believe in the rule of law, and so do our residents. And our residents deserve justice, and they cannot fight this for themselves. They're relying on us to fight this battle for them. Just like MMC Michael's son, I'm also receiving a lot of messages from residents. Many of them I've never spoken to before, and they're saying, we are watching, please continue the fight. We don't want what is happening. People want stability, but they also want a legitimate government, a government that they can trust and that they know is not corrupt and does things according to the rule book of council and the laws of this land. I think the last question I've already touched on, has the coalition fallen apart? I think I've really explained that the Patriotic Alliance decided to switch sides. They struck a deal with the African National Congress. We are in talks with our partners to look at what the rebuild and the regrouping is going to look like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just want to ask Mayor, very tricky join here. Are you disappointed with Action SA's move to actually now even concede the fact that they're willing to work with the ANC despite members of the public knowing very well that their campaign was built on a non-ANC partnership? That's something that's alarming as well. And maybe secondly, would you be open to work with the EFF once again to get your numbers boosted in council and finally get the seats in council again?
I saw the reports in the media yesterday about Action SA's move to consider working with the African National Congress. I've not had direct engagements yet with Action SA in that regard, and therefore I will not take it as truth until such time Action SA has said to us, particularly in the coalition context, that that is in fact true. If it were to be true, however, it would be very concerning. It would be very concerning because we formed this coalition primarily to remove the ANC, because they're corrupt and they have no interest in servicing our residents. To see our partners now begin to look at working with this very corrupt ANC just to hold on to power in some way, shape or form would indeed be very disappointing. But like I said, it's yet to be proven true or false, and we will discover that once we engage with Action SA. Would we be open to work with the EFF? Well, I think those decisions are made at a national level, and it is our national leadership at a national level are deciding on who we're going to be working with going forward. We've got our partners that we were with in the multi-party government, who else we will extend ourselves to. That is subject to discussions at a national level, and as time goes, we will then filter those through to the local level as well. So I do think it's early days to talk about what's going to happen. I do know that though we of one mind that we need to rebuild, we need to regroup, and we need to find a way to fight for our residents.
Ms. Phalatse, from Kaya FM. One of the criticisms that came after the election of Colleen Makwele as Speaker was she outlined her problem with how you approached or how you dealt with Eldorado Park specifically. We know that the residents of Eldorado Park have been camped outside the police station there for almost a month. And what we also know that today, following the swearing in of the MMCs at council, they are set to visit the area today. How do you respond to that comment made by Colleen Makwele that you were slow to respond to the needs of Eldorado Park?
So Councillor Makwele is being mischievous in the sense that she is aware that I was away on council business when this happened. She's also aware, she should be aware that my office was on the ground. In fact, a lot of work was done in Eldorado Park by my office, including reaching out to the office of the Premier for them to join us, because much of the issues that were picked up were of a provincial and national nature. I also, even in my absence, still wrote a letter to the presidency appealing to them to assist. And what the plan was on this past Saturday, we were going to go to Eldorado Park with the MMCs so that we could listen to residents and take their issues and come up with a turnaround strategy on every single one of those issues. I did visit Eldorado Park, by the way. I did go and see those people that were sitting in those tents. I also had time with the brigadier, the head of the police station in Eldos, to get a picture of exactly what is going on. And like I said, many of the issues raised were not local government issues. Although there were service delivery issues, those were being addressed. However, we still wanted to avail ourselves just to go and listen and see if we could do more than what we're already doing. But important was for the Office of the Premier and the Presidency to coordinate a response to matters that are outside of local government control. And that had already happened. We had reached out. I know that Premier David Makura had indicated he's busy with a handover, and he had said that he could avail MEC Faith Mazibuko to go and accompany us to hear what the residents are complaining about, although the issues span beyond just the community safety portfolio. So a lot has been done. It's completely false, the accusations by Councillor Colleen Makwele.
Thank you very much. I'm looking for any other hands. In the second round, second right. Right. Thank you very much, colleagues of the media. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and your colleagues. And we trust that you'll have a productive day today. Thank you. You know, I left all those things in the hands of Margaret and I've been. Yeah. You can send